Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Thursday, and normally in this spot, guys, I do Pop and Bravo, but I'm recording this before I go to town, so I'll have a good episode for you while I'm out of town. And I have Landon Bryant here today to talk about a great Netflix documentary, The Kings of Tupelo. And I knew the only person to talk to about was Landon because Mississippi, no Mississippi, you know?
We know Mississippi, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for letting me talk about this. I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, good, good. And I told you, I was like, I'm asking you, don't go on any other podcast to talk about
Mhm.
this. I
And I
need
did not. I've saved it all.
all your fresh takes. That's what I need. All right. First question is, do you know any of these people personally?
I don't know any of these people personally, but since this has aired, I had at least like 6 encounters with people who did know people
Yes.
personally or knew somebody who, well, now I know so and so, and it really should have been about her. People that should have been in the story because they didn't tell the whole
Really?
story apparently, and I don't have the whole story, but yeah, there's people that are like, I should have been in that. I should have been in that. It was one of my friends, uncles or godfathers, yeah, godfathers is that main man, the guy that was a senator. So yes,
Steve Holland.
so don't know them personally, know them definitely through people, could access the people if I needed to, I feel like, you know?
Yes. Steve Holland is also the one that when I asked my friend Paige, who's from Tupelo, I was like, tell me about these people. And she goes, well, the only one, we know is Steve Holland. So,
And he's a character apparently to everybody, so that makes sense.
yes.
There's that we got those. We got a bunch of those around.
Now, Landon, I did talk to Sarah and Mari of the podcast Crime Scene at the end of December. I think she put it out the beginning of January, maybe. And Sarah is from Australia, and Mari, the other girl, is from Virginia. And it's so interesting because she was like, "Do you know people like this?" I was like, "Everybody I know is like
Babe, yes. Do I
this."
know people like this? These are the people.
These are our people. I said, but and I said, it just is something about Mississippi is just Steve Holland is just a very quintessential Mississippi character, right?
Very much
It's
so.
just everybody knows a guy or 6 like that or a woman like his mom. We just do. And I said, she's like, what is it about the South that kind of breeds this type of drama, this storytelling? I was like, well, I don't know if this particular story is integral to the South other than the Elvis impersonator. But, the black market organ trafficking and whatnot, that wasn't on my bingo card, you know?
Not at all. I mean, I didn't see that coming, like, even in the slightest, and I do have we've got to talk about that. We'll get to
Yeah.
it, we'll get to it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
these people, these things, maybe we don't know them specifically, but we know about this because this is, like, what's going on here is this kinda nonsense.
When Steve Holland was standing in the funeral home and he's in the morgue area, like, talking, where they do the embalming and stuff, he says he embalmed his own mother, number 1.
Wow.
Okay. And then he says, "Oh, you got people coming in. Is that Gladys?" Well, she had the diabetes. I was like,
He
"Oh my
did, and
god."
he'd said that casually. He said it so casually, like he wasn't doing the documentary anymore. He was just talking. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he said, "Oh, bring
Gladys."
her in. Bring in Gladys. Bring her in." I was like, "Oh my god."
My gosh, I've never actually thought about like the funeral home side of our social situations in the South, but it got me being like, oh, wow, funeral homes they really know everybody. They see everybody. And turns out they're like a powerful entity that we have to watch,
Yeah. And I
even.
have to tell you, so I went and looked him up. So Steve Holland has his own Wikipedia, and I went and looked him up. And let's just talk about him real quick. So he did early in his career help pass legislation that supported organ donation in Mississippi. That's like where you check it off on your driver's license, make sure everybody knows. And he was a funeral director for more than 40 years. It was the family business. And this is what is interesting. He said he saw his work as an undertaker being the type of local ministry or public service, especially for poorer families, which I don't know if poorer is a word, families who he offered services on a sliding scale. He also believed that helping families during the grieving process helped his political career because it brought him in contact with thousands of potential voters.
He was right. He was right all
He's
around.
right.
All around. It not only is it, I mean, he is helping families. I'm sure it's helping families, but at least it puts him in a position to like be able to have the power of knowing all that. And also, yeah, that definitely would help your career. If you spend a traumatic moment with somebody, you're definitely going to like vote for them in the future, probably. You know.
Yeah, or even this, like, you don't know anybody on the ballot, but you know this guy because he did your Aunt Mabel's funeral or whatever. You know, he
Name
seemed nice.
recognition.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's interesting too that in March of 2017, he announced that his doctors had diagnosed him with dementia and he would not seek reelection. But in 2019, he did decide to run again as an independent. He did not win, but he was in the legislature for
A
from
long time.
1985 to
Wow.
2020.
Wow.
So that
Uh,
was 35 years.
so he has seen it too. I mean, that's my whole life. So he's seen the whole
Yeah,
thing. And there's been some stuff in our Senate and House of Representatives in Mississippi. So he's been there. He was there for all of it.
fun fact, my granddad was in the state legislature for 50 years.
There you go. Okay, at least he beat Steve Hollins, you
He
know.
beat Steve Holland. I wonder, I guess he probably knew him, but my granddad would have been,
I'm
like, old
sure
when he
they
was, like,
had
a
to
young
have,
guy, yeah.
but they had to have rubbed shoulders in some way.
That's my connection, Landon. That's my
There
connection.
you
We
go.
just
There you
did
go.
it. We
See,
just did it.
we
We
found
just
it
did
so
it.
fast. I don't think
Yeah.
it took us 5 minutes.
Nope, never does. So the Kings of Tupelo, I'll just read the description as Netflix tells us. It's a crime drama series. It was 3 episodes, I believe, that weaves together a complex narrative involving a small town feud, internet conspiracy theories, Elvis impersonation, black market organ trafficking, a presidential assassination attempt, all set against the backdrop of a scandal in Mississippi. Now, I do
It's
know
got
also,
everything.
yeah, I do know Roger Wicker as well,
Mhm.
tangentially, so
I
that's
actually
another
know
person.
Roger Wicker, but I felt like he wasn't, like, one of the main characters, you know? I don't know, a side character.
He was, but I'm impressed that they got a sitting
I
United
am
States
too.
senator. It's a
I
documentary.
feel like I thought about that too. I feel like when they presented him with this, he was like, "We're gonna have to get out ahead of this one, like, we need to control the narrative." I feel like that must have been
Mm,
why he did it, because there's no way. I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know. I don't think he must have known this story, and he must have known, like, what it could be twisted into, because you would not do that as a
Well, he
politician,
knows the
but he
story because
did.
the rice got sent to him, so he knew the story.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
but I guess he just knew he was gonna be talked about, so he might as well control what's being said.
you're right, he may as well come across as a good guy because there's tons of pictures of Wicker with, James Everett Dutchke, whose name is so hard for me to say for some reason.
Oh, me too,
Um,
I can't do that, and the whole documentary, he's like, "Well, I didn't really know much about it." He's, like, distances himself through the whole documentary.
he's like, "I did have 12 pictures with him, but I didn't really," but
I don't
that's
really know,
true. You
no.
can go to Neshoba County
That
Fair,
is
you can
true.
go anywhere and take a picture with a politician, and
That is true.
I've got a
Especially
picture
the
with
Neshoba County Fair, they've all
yeah,
gotta go there.
yeah, I've got a picture with Bill Clinton, but I don't know him. I mean,
Right.
I mean, but for that one
What a
moment,
treasure.
Landon,
Wow.
for that moment, we saw each other.
Besties.
I could see it. I told him that I was like, "I'm from Mississippi and you're from Arkansas." He's like, "Well, it's just like the same." It's like, "Yes,
Mhm,
sir."
it's neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. I was so nervous. Um, I've also met Barack Obama one time. Don't know him either, but did meet him. Did meet him. Yeah,
That is
love him.
not casual. That's a large deal. My goodness gracious.
Do me tell you how that happened. So
Yes.
because my husband is a lobbyist, and so he would go most years. He would go to the Republican convention and the Democratic convention. And so if it was Democratic convention, always I wanted to go if I could because it's got the best bands, the best parties, the celebrity sighting is, and that's my jam. So I don't really care about the rest of it. So I went a few years with him to Democratic conventions, and we were in Boston. I believe it was the year John Kerry was running for president, and we went to a Black congressional caucus, um, like a yacht party. It was on a boat, and it was when Barack Obama was a senator and he had just become a senator and he was going to do the presentation of introducing John Kerry at the convention, which was a huge deal because he was a rising star,
Yeah.
and so he came up. My standing there with my husband, who's standing there with somebody else who knew Senator Obama, and he came over and we spoke. And nice to meet you. And he walked away. And me knowing nothing about nothing, as he
Wild.
walked away, my husband goes, "That guy's going to be president one day." And I go,
And he
"Well,"
was right.
I go, "Get him back over here. What do you mean?" And he goes, "He's going to be president." He goes, he's incredible." I was like, "Well,
And
shoot."
that's
Yeah.
legendary. You've got I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like you gotta tell more people about that.
Yeah, I gotta
The
tell more
people need to
people that
know.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good story because generally my husband's pretty good. He's pretty spot on about spotting people that are gonna go far or gonna do the right thing or act right, or yeah. He had a lot of predictions about the current election that I won't go into, but he was right. So,
Oof, yikes.
mm, yikes. So, all right, the story goes. Here's how the story goes. Interrupt me when you've got things to say.
Okay.
Kevin Curtis is an Elvis impersonator, okay, with his brother Jack. They do Elvis impersonations and they do Double Trouble. They're the only, and so from what I could gather, probably because they couldn't get the rights to any of the Elvis music, from what I gathered from what they showed us, it seemed like maybe Kevin did younger Elvis and Jack did white jumpsuit Elvis, Vegas
I
Elvis.
I never understood what the difference was between the 2 Elvises, but they made a big deal about that they were the only ones that were, like, twin Elvises, and they weren't twins, they didn't even really look alike, but
No, they're just
big deal, I
brothers.
guess, because there's 2
Yeah.
of them. They're like there's not just 1 Elvis, but 2, you know?
Mhm. While one goes back to change, the other one comes out and does a
Mhm.
different song. Yeah, and, I mean, his brother Jack's, hair dye situation was off the chain.
He Jax is such a character, like, there's so many lawyer commercials that are Jax's. I feel like not Jax specifically, but, like, Batman.
Look like
There's,
that?
like,
Yeah, yeah.
so many of those, like, a specific character. Those commercials were wild. Yeah, I felt like I knew him.
Last time, well, when we went to take John to school when he moved into Ole Miss, so last August, we were just walking around the square, looking for t-shirts to buy or whatever, and went into a store, University Sporting Goods specifically,
Mhm.
and, there was a guy in there that for 100% sure either was an Elvis impersonator in his past life or currently was an Elvis. He was probably 70 years old, but had that hair, and
Yeah.
he looked like he was just like a lawyer, like you're saying, but he looked
Mhm.
like Elvis.
They do that. They do that. I mean, be a character if you can, I guess. I feel like also I possibly saw these Elvis impersonators, one of them at least. I think I saw one of them.
Really?
I did,
Really?
because I remember, like, in the 2000s and 2010s, like, being at things where there might be an Elvis impersonator,
Sure.
and I'm almost positive at least one of those times it was these guys, so I don't know, I'm claiming it. I couldn't be specific, but I feel like if we checked our schedules, we overlapped at one point.
I would imagine that's true.
There can't be
So
that many twin Elvis impersonators, you know?
they said they're the only ones.
There can't be
That's
that
what
many,
they
right?
said.
Okay, so yeah, we've
Okay.
seen them.
Double trouble. So, now Kevin marries a girl named Laura. So Laura was originally a backup singer for the Double Trouble. You wanna talk about a character. Laura on
She's
her
down for a
couch,
good time.
Laura with her Tervis, insulated tumbler that you couldn't see what was in it, was for sure drinking straight vodka. I mean,
For sure, and she was having a great time, and she's been having a great time, and that's been her motto the whole time, it would appear, as they told
whole
the story. Laura's
way.
only here for a good time.
She was just yes, I did hook up with my brother-in-law. Yes, I did hook up with the guy in prison for trying to kill the president. Sure. Why
She even got
not?
tickled about it every now and then. She would, like, take a sip and, like, chuckle and then be like, "Yeah, I did."
She's like, "I've had a life." Wow, and, he was very into her feet, there
I
he's
know,
offering foot
wild.
massages for women, and we
Mhm,
had that video of her, like, shaking her, like, bare bootay. I was
mhm.
like, "Okay, we got some home video of Laura, like, stripping in the living room." Like, "Alright,
Alright, Laura,
Laura,
go ahead.
go ahead." So, Kevin, because while he's married to Laura and, they're starting to have kids and stuff, she's like, "You can't make your money on the double trouble, so you gotta get a real job." So he starts a cleaning company. He is a janitorial service. Now they talk about the North Mississippi Medical Center as if it is Johns Hopkins or Sloan
They
Kettering.
do. Like, it is the biggest hospital there ever was. They do.
Now, don't get me wrong, but I was like, I mean, I'd say like Baptist Hospital in Jackson might or the UMC. I
At
mean,
least
medical
University of Mississippi Medical Center. I, have yet to encounter the North Mississippi Medical Center, honestly, in all my years, so I don't know.
but I guess at the time, maybe that specific area didn't have a big hospital like that.
Well, and there's, like, nothing around there, so that makes sense. It would be, like,
Maybe
the main hospital.
and it's great for those underserved areas that probably
Mhm.
had to go to Jackson or Memphis or, a bigger town to get to
Definitely.
a hospital. But they did And I did say when I was on crime scene, I was like, they were like, they got this job. This is a huge, big, important hospital. I go, I don't want to bust your bubble on this, but it is just a
N
local hospital.
I don't think you could put the word huge in front of it, but
We saw pictures of it. I mean, it's just a, but
yeah,
anyway,
just a
for them,
hospital.
for them at the time, it was a new medical facility, which was exciting. So for him to get the janitorial job there was a big job. It would be good for him financially. So he claims that during a Christmas party or a New Year's Eve party or something for the staff, that he was asked to come in because there was a drainage issue in the morgue. So he tells the story. Oh, gross. He's slopping up this blood and all this stuff. And we're like, oh my God. So he tells the story. And then he says, now you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you believe this. He was just looking for some water to drink, Landon. So he opened up a morgue refrigerator and just couldn't believe there were body parts in there.
Mm-mm. Okay, let's pause here for a second
Okay,
because
let's
I
do.
have a similar story to this
No.
situation, and I know, and I hesitate to even talk about it because I don't want any controversies and I don't want any conspiracy theories involved in what I'm talking about. But let's go
Okay.
back. So
Okay.
I was a tech in the emergency room and in the ICU at a hospital near where I live. I will not say which one just for legal purposes, but in a hospital,
Okay.
and
Not
it
the
was smaller.
NMMC.
Not North Mississippi Medical Center. It was
Okay.
smaller, and part of that, I would have to go into the morgue. I would have to go into the morgue that was downstairs. Now, morgues and hospitals are not as full as you think they would be because funeral homes come and take the bodies. There's usually not many things in the morgue. Like, there's not much going on in the morgue unless there is, like, a crime scene situation where they're
Mm.
holding parts of stuff for crime scenes
Mhm.
or organ
Mhm.
donation situation. And so, first of all, I would say the morgue is more like a closet. It's not like this giant room that you're picturing that's, like, very scientific-y. It's
That you
just a
see
closet.
on TV, like you
Mhm.
see on TV, it's like 12
Right.
beds lined up and all that. Yeah, okay.
I've never been to the North Mississippi Medical Center's morgue, but I can almost guarantee you that it is, like, just a closet. And
Okay.
then the morgue refrigerators are horizontal refrigerators. They're not vertical refrigerators. So that right there.
Yeah, because the body slides in and slides out.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So and it's like a long refrigerator that
Drawer.
opens comes down on the wall. There's usually like
Yeah.
2, one on top of the other. They're like body
Uh-huh.
length going in. So you go into this closet and there's like 2 body length refrigerators, one on top of the other. So
Yeah.
first of all, I don't think you would open those refrigerators for a drink. Second of all, when you go into a morgue, it's very clear, like morgue, biohazard. This is not a place for drinks.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was looking for a drink. This man went in there and opened the refrigerator is what I'm saying. Is he didn't need an excuse. He just opened one of the
Yes, he
fridges.
wasn't looking for a Fanta. He would get that in the break room. It
Yes.
made no
Well,
so
okay.
that wasn't true.
So that wasn't true. So we're already there. So this and y'all do not come at me about this because I do not want to be embroiled in a scandal. But when I was working there,
Uh,
one time, the first time that I had to go to the morgue, well, first of all, like it was small town hospital, so they would do things like if you were at the head of the stretcher and you went into the morgue, you're
uh-huh.
stuck. You can't get out of the morgue because there's no room on either side. It's like either refrigerators or crawl over the stretcher. And so they
Yeah,
would like
gotcha.
lock you, push you in the morgue and then like lock the door and like leave and be like, ha ha, we left you in there with the, anyways, very
Mm.
professional, very professional nurses and doctors. It was nighttime. I was on the night shift. We were
Oh,
bored.
scary.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so one time I was at the head of the bed and we were going to transfer a person into the lower refrigerator, but in the lower refrigerator, there were some body parts. There were some body parts and they were bagged up and like labeled very specifically. So I had to move those into the up refrigerator. And until recently, I have always wondered what was going on with that. But at a show that I was just at, somebody explained to me what it was because in that refrigerator, one of the things I had to move was a biohazard bag. It was wrapped and taped around an entire leg, but the shoe was still on the leg. So I was I've been confused about it for like more than a decade. I was like, someone either like lost this leg in the wild or like they didn't take their shoe off before they went to surgery, right? Like why is there a leg here? So I've thought about that for like a decade, but then a nurse told me that they keep things if they were involved in a crime scene. So I think I had a crime scene leg. Can you believe? I know.
But what
So
what
I've experienced organs being in the refrigerator before, and it was wild. My particular one was definitely for a crime scene situation. I don't know who chopped whose leg off, but somebody did. at some point here, or it could have been a car wreck that was like ended up being investigated as a crime scene. Those are the two options. Either way, I have encountered parts in morgue refrigerators, and it's just a regular thing like that. There's parts in almost every morgue refrigerator. Like if you get, I don't know, your eyeball taken out, they have to send it to the lab for all the dissection and studying and all that, and it stays in the morgue in the meantime between those things. Like that's where it goes. You don't just like take the eyeball out instead of sit it on the counter, or like remove an arm and
Right,
let it
right.
stay in the room. So the things go to the morgue in the meantime, and they're usually not there for a very long time. Like they're there for a few hours at most, because then police come, or funeral home comes, or lab comes, or mora comes, more of the organ recovery
But
situation.
Mora, they're usually taking those out of people when they're still alive or have just died in the last, like, 5 minutes. I mean, you know what I mean? Organ
Exactly.
donation is usually, like, when somebody is
It
brain
goes
dead
really,
or
really
yeah,
quick. There
really
usually
quick.
won't be more stuff in the morgue refrigerator, but there could be if they like really actually had to be, but it would be within like an hour or two. They would be there. So more is so fast. So that is my experience with morgues and body parts. Body parts are a regular thing in morgues. Like there was always something like an appendix or a gallbladder or something in there. Like in a
Oh,
little thing.
you're making me sick. You're literally making me sick.
The truth. So when this came up, and he was like, when the guy immediately was like, this is scandalous, and there's something here. It really made me think twice, because I never one time, not one time, and I worked there for years, did I think they are stealing organs and selling them. I never got to
Right,
that conclusion.
right.
So wild jump also made me be like, huh, maybe you need to like pay attention more to things. Maybe
No,
you
I
should
think
have known.
no, I
But
think
no, I
your
don't.
initial think of wild jump is something, and, I do know, like, my husband has in his leg, he has when he had to get his whole ACL and his knee and everything done, they did put, like, one piece that was a cadaver
Yes.
tendon or something.
Attendant, mhm.
Yeah, they asked, "Do you want, like, a human or did you want, like, a sheep or something?" We
Yeah.
recommend the cadaver one because it's more like the human body, it'll acclimate. This has been 20 years and he's never had a problem, but I remember at the time going, "Ooh, that's weird to think about."
Yeah,
But,
it is weird. It's weird. It's weird to think about, and organ donation is a weird process. It's something that's like definitely a personal decision. I've been in the room when they like started doing that. It's really intense, but
stop.
life saving.
It's
Life saving
life-saving,
situation.
and you would hope that if you're, on the other end of it and you had a loved one that needed something, that somebody that did organ donation, like, helped save their life. So I think it's important. I'm all for it.
Definitely,
So,
my grandfather had a heart transplant. This is like in the 2000s. He had a heart transplant. He just died
wow.
this past year. So
Oh,
he lived like almost 18 years, I think, with a new heart. I know, from University of Mississippi Medical Center,
Landon, I
not
love
North
that.
Mississippi Medical Center.
No, not to be confused. No shade to the North Mississippi Medical Center, you guys.
No
We're just
shade,
saying
no
on
shade.
this particular episode, they made it sound like it was Sloan Kettering and people were going
They
there,
really did.
coming from Australia to get treated. Um, okay, so anyway, this particular situation, he says he saw the head of somebody that he had just seen in the ER. Now, the other podcast I did, Mari, is also in the healthcare field, and she was like, "Yeah, and you're not taking saving somebody's head
A
unless, like
head,
you're
that's wild.
saying, it's for these reasons."
Unless
So this is what
yeah.
he said. This is what he said. And so this has him go descending into this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories where
Descending, he went down the hole.
he went right over to Best Buy and got himself the best computer, the best modem, everything. And this was before, we had such high speed. And so he was about to
And he
go,
called it his
"Beep,
gateway. He
beep."
said, "I went and got a gateway."
Mhm. And he had to sit and wait for that dial up to go. But he started really digging into this. And it's really, really sad at one point when you meet his adult children who say they're okay
Yeah.
now. But at the time, we wouldn't see our dad for days. He would come out of his room, get some food, and go back in. And like he was a complete absentee father because he had gone so far down this conspiracy hole. He wrote a book called Missing Pieces about the incident. He published it online, and then he created more than 40 websites devoted to exposing this hidden body parts market. So this is where Steve Holland comes in. Okay. So Steve Holland was the one who had passed the organ donation legislation in Mississippi early in his career. And he says, okay, I've got this new bill that we're going to pass that says, like, it's about body parts. I don't know what. I can't get into it, the legal aspect of it. But Steve Holland was like, yeah, no. We're not doing that. Like it's that it wasn't helpful for him. It was so that leads Kevin to give more down the rabbit hole because he's like Steve Holland is getting Gladys in the funeral home and taking out her parts.
He
That's what
found a
he
mission.
decided. He found a mission. So that's why he decided, because he tried to introduce this bill that Steve Holland said, no, I'm not going to help you. He decided now he hates Steve Holland. He hates Sadie Holland, the mother, who's a judge. He says he's being followed. He says he's being watched. There's helicopters. We get all these like quick cuts scenes where you felt like as the end of Goodfellas with the helicopters going overhead and it's running
Yes.
and it's like, but I don't think any of that was happening. I just think it was like a regular
I
helicopter.
I don't either, and that is, like, a wild thing, and since I watched this now on TikTok, there's this girl, and I am not giving any opinions on this girl, like, if you're listening to this person who is doing this, she believes that she's under investigation by the FBI, she believes that, so she sees helicopters and policemen, and
Uh-huh.
she'll be, like, at the gym and think somebody's behind her listening to her, and
Mhm.
to me, from the outside, not experiencing it, it looks like she is a little bit delusional.
Mhm.
And now I've like fallen down a TikTok rabbit hole of people who believe they're being stalked, like by the FBI or being like whatever it is. And what a mess. Because then you really convince yourself, and he really convinced himself, and like the feedback all relates to each
So
other. It
so ev
really is a
yeah.
mess.
So every time you see a helicopter or a car drive by that you've never seen
And
before, or a police car in your town, you're like, "They're after me."
confirmation bias.
Mhm. I mean, no.
But he
So
really did. He really fell for it.
I'm always like, "I don't care. Track my phone. I don't care. What are you gonna find?"
Follow me. I don't, it's not going to be exciting.
I'm sorry. It's not gonna be exciting. You're gonna give up really quickly, but I'm going to my house, to the sugar house to get my nails done, and I might go to the grocery
Follow
store.
me to the recliner.
And then follow me right back over to this office. Okay. So, Everett Dutchke, this guy, James Everett Dutchke, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but Dutchke,
I would never know.
he comes into play because Kevin Curtis is looking for support. After learning about Holland's funeral homes, Dutchke was a local politician who published his own newspaper, and he's got connections because he's a local politician. He's trying to, go against Steve Holland and all that. So then Kevin's like, okay, well, this guy will help me out. Dutchke then starts to work for Jack, the other brother at the insurance agent, with Laura. And
Mhm.
Dutchke also does karate. He does martial arts with the kids.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Don't forget
Mhm, for sure.
Elvis. So,
Never.
never forget Elvis doing kung fu on the stage, guys.
Never
Never,
forget.
never. So, so Kevin didn't know that Dutchke worked for his brother. So, of course, then that's in his mind, like everybody's against me. And according to Kevin, James Everett Dutchke gave him false hopes that he was going to publish his story in his little local newspaper. And then we go into James Everett Dutchke's story, which is so crazy. Because then you're like, wait a minute, now we're moving focus to this other guy who's more crazy,
Right. The
allegedly.
whole series went that way. I felt like it, like, continued to go further than I thought it was going to all the way through the whole thing.
And then every fourth scene, here comes Laura. She's popping up with her drink. Yeah, I banged him. Yeah.
With the, like, smirk on her face, like
Maybe, maybe I hooked up with his brother. I mean, yeah.
I mean, like, it
Um,
was the time. She's like
so, so Dutchke's campaign against Holland for the local seat was
Mhm.
super aggressive. He started like photoshopping Steve Holland's face and other things and trying
Yeah,
to
wild.
damage him, like really dirty campaigning. He made xenophobic, homophobic campaigns and used Holland's image to,
He
really
sure did.
besmirch him. He sure did. It didn't work because Steve Holland's beloved, right? So, ultimately, everybody stood by Holland and they reelected him. Now, somewhere in this, situation is around the time probably the James Everett is like, okay, well, I'm now against Steve Holland. I'm against his mother. I'm against Roger Wicker because he's our senator. And while I'm at it, I may as well throw in the sitting president, Barack Obama. I'm going to be against
Yes.
everybody now. Yeah. So Kevin Curtis now. these ricin letters started to appear. Now, I remember when the ricin letters were being sent to people because it was around similar time of the anthrax.
Mhm.
Okay. And I remember when this was being sent to people, and the ricin, one of the funniest things about the ricin is they immediately are looking at Kevin Curtis about it because he has
Right
threatened
to
all these
him.
people and he's nuts. And they ask him, like, well, have you ever ordered this kind of bean that you could make rice and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't even eat rice. Oh,
I
no.
know, I loved it. That's what saved him though, like, him being like, "I don't even eat rice," and
Yeah.
he was so serious when he said it, he was so genuine. It was like, you couldn't it would be hard for an actor to deliver that line with as much sincerity as he delivered that line because he really meant it with his whole soul. He was like, "I don't even eat rice."
And then what is it about this James Everett Dutchke guy who's like out on the street talking to the local reporters or the CNN reporters or whoever while they are biohazard searching his house? And he's like, I don't know anything about anything. Like, this Kevin Curtis is trying to set me up. And he is like in the most ill-fitting clothes, by the way, just like super baggy, like jackets out on the street talking. And then
Mhm.
they're meanwhile in the house finding everything in his house that he did it.
Right, I know. I think he is out of the characters in this, there's a lot of maybe possibly some mental illness, and I feel like he's got the most of all of it from the way he reacted and the way he was
Mhm.
so, like, very straightforward about it. I don't know. So that's a character, a scary one, honestly. It's kinda
A
like, do you
scary
want your
one.
crazy out on your shoulder, or do you want your crazy locked up inside, and then you won't know much? Because he appeared not crazy, and then
Right.
as compared to the other characters in the show, you'd be like, "Well, these ones are the crazy ones." But no, that guy was the crazy one, and I would prefer my crazy to be out and about where I can see it.
I'd like to know what I'm dealing with.
Right.
I'd like to know what with Kevin Curtis, you knew what you were dealing with,
I
you
knew I
know?
know what I'm dealing with from the get-go.
Yeah, but with this guy, because he's like, he runs this local business and he works for the insurance
Yeah,
agent and he's a
he was, like,
politician
doing
and
social life, like, doing all the stuff, like which
yeah,
was very bold, and he came from nowhere. He just, like, showed up in
that was my question to you.
Tupelo.
Could you remember? Because I didn't want to watch this whole thing twice. I watched it once.
No, he just
Did
showed
he
up.
where did he come from? Because he wasn't a
I don't
Mississippian.
No, I think he had gotten in trouble even somewhere or something. We're gonna have to look that up because he fled his former life and just picked a
Uh-huh.
town where nothing was going on, nothing was a big deal, and it happened to be Tupelo, and he just showed up there and then tried to put himself into the situation, and he did. He got himself in, but I don't think successfully.
No. So I'm reading this from like Wikipedia and it says after investigating Dutchke, following him around town, searching his home, authorities
Oh,
determined there was
yes.
enough evidence to arrest him for sending the
Mhm.
poison letters to Obama, Wicker, and Holland. And in addition, he was charged with child molestation and sexual
I know.
assault.
I don't remember that, but I do remember being like, "Ugh, yuck."
I remember it, but I can't remember what the exact situation was. But I mean, just overall, kind of a bad dude, and not just because he tried to like kill people, and also this as well. Um, Now he pled guilty in 2014. Okay, so 10 years ago, 11 now. He pled guilty in 2014 and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. And we get a lot of him talking from prison,
Yes.
which is interesting. Um, do we think that was really him, or we think that was a reenactment of somebody just recording the back of a head and saying it's him?
They made it seem like it was him. He was very unapologetic. The
Yeah.
Dutchke was the character that they showed. If it was him, he was not sorry.
Well, so Kevin explains that lately, here in the last few years, he Googled James Everett Dutchke's case, and he found a photo of Dutchke's no, he found a photo of his own, Kevin's own attorney with the attorney general. And remember, the attorney general was the guy he had the fist fight with.
Yeah, he almost got in a fight with him in the parking lot.
They got in a fight in the parking lot. So Kevin's own attorney and then this guy that he had a fight with got in a fight in a parking lot. And this leads Kevin back to his old ways and now believes Dutchke was an operative of the CIA. And Dutchke confirms it. He says, I was with the CIA.
He does.
He says he was, and so now he says, he was given important information about the funding of terrorism, which was very, damaging, and he refused to relinquish this, which, according to James Dutchke and Kevin, led the CIA to frame Dutchke. And I guess that when those guys were in biohazard suits in his house, they were planting the things to make it look like he sent the rice in, even though they literally have like videos of him at the post office.
Right, and also the guy, like those guys in biohazard suits would be guys from like your emergency management people in the area, so people would know who they are. Maybe they're working
Yeah.
for the CIA, but it would be very
Yeah.
difficult to slip that by a small town.
Today's show is sponsored by Roe. Are you ready to lose an average of 15% of your weight faster? Meet the latest offering through Roe. This formula from Eli Lilly hits not one but two hormones to curb hunger with less nausea. Your Roe affiliated provider can help you understand if GLP-1s are right for you and your goals, but that's just the beginning. Roe members have support through the process. Plus, you can sign up online from the comfort of your own home. That means no waiting for an in-person doctor's appointment, no commute to the doctor's office, and no waiting rooms. You guys know I've taken GLP-1 medications for weight loss, and I really wish Roe would have been around when I was navigating this process. The insurance. Look, weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. That to me is win, win, win. Join the over 385,000 people who have already chosen Roe to access GLP-1s. Go to ro.co/pinkshade to see if you qualify. That's ro.co/pinkshade. Go to ro.co/safety for boxed warning and full safety information about GLP-1 medications. 15% of weight loss is based on a study in non-diabetics with obesity or with overweight patients with a weight-related condition on 5 milligrams of medication and when paired with diet and exercise. I know one person that works for the CIA, one, and he won't ever tell you that he works for the CIA. And my
No.
husband had a very good friend when we were like younger in our 30s that worked for the CIA, and was sometimes just like they'd be like guys hanging around on a Sunday afternoon. He would be like, "Look, get a call, and be like, gotta go," and they wouldn't see him for like a month.
Yeah.
And that's and they he never said he worked for the CIA either, but we know he does. We know. So if you work for the CIA, you don't tell people you work for the CIA
First rule
ever.
of Fight Club.
Right. So it's pretty interesting. And another thing that we completely forgot to touch on, which was so funny, was that James Everett Dutchke claims he was Mensa and he had it
Yes.
everywhere. And he got mad because Kevin Curtis, trying to poke at him, made a fake Mensa certificate to show how easy it would be to say you're in Mensa.
Yes,
And
he
James,
did.
he was so mad about that.
And you can, like, confirm Mensa stuff, like, that's, like, public records, I feel like you can
Yeah.
just see who's in Mensa, you don't have to you can't, like, hide that, and what an interesting thing to fake,
Be mad ab
be
What an interesting thing to
fake
be
being
mad
very
about.
intelligent. Mhm,
He said he was
wild.
in charge of James Everett Dutchke of Tupelo, Mississippi, local
Yes,
karate instructor, said he was in charge of confirming who was in Mensa, and he knew that Kevin was not in because it had not come across his desk.
and that's where you would be like, "Well, bless your heart.
Well, good for you. That's
Well, good for
amazing.
y'all."
Look at you. You're not smart enough to outrun those biohazard guys in your house. Not that smart. Oh my god. So, Dushki believes he was framed by the CIA, but he insists Kevin Curtis had nothing to do with it because he was too dumb, not in Mensa, and he was just a low-level patsy in the scheme, and that he was in the scheme, but he didn't know he was just a low-level patsy.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, they were so connected randomly.
yeah.
He was they were, like, low-levelly connected by the end of all this, just in this big old mess that they made together, at the same time, separately.
Right. Yes. So the whole thing ends with Kevin writing to Dutchke, in prison, exposing this new theory of truly what happened and offering to team up, to find out who's responsible for the poison letters. But Dutchke says, "I'm not interested. I want nothing to do with Kevin, but I do think, obviously the CIA framed me." By the way, he never even came up with that idea until Kevin told him. So I just have so many things to even say about. So there's the Elvis connection, there's conspiracy theories, there's the feud between these people, there's
Mhm.
poison being sent to the president. And I
The
mean,
whole president, a senator, like, everything like that. It really got out of hand. Like, this got very far out of hand. It it was almost a okay, so conspiracy in the past, like, few years since, like, around COVID time period has been, like, not way less fun than it used to be. Like, it used to be kinda fun 'cause you could talk about it, but it wouldn't be like you're totally, like, off your rocker, and then conspiracy went, like, really, really far, and now it's like, I don't even wanna play conspiracy because I don't even wanna, like, get involved at all. I don't wanna know anything that's going on, and this one was very fun because it was, like, from before now, so it was like an
mhm,
old conspiracy, and that was refreshing to get to dive into conspiracy world without it being, like, very flat earth serious, like, people really believe in
like the
stuff, so,
drones in your
I don't know.
backyard. Yeah,
Exactly. So this was very
yeah.
fun. I liked that aspect of this documentary. Like, that was so
That's
much
a
fun.
great
Gotta
point,
give a shout
Landon.
out. It was very fun.
Mhm,
It was way more fun than if this were today. Shout out
yeah.
to what was her Sally Holland? What was her name? The Susan
Sadie?
Holland? Sadie Holland.
Sadie.
Just like a very epic Mississippi political lady. Like, she had the swagger, she had the whole thing. She's the whole package of, like, a political powerhouse woman in
Yeah,
Mississippi, and
and we
which is
we had to
wild
go
because
before her as
we
the judge when I mean, this
Yes, she was literally the judge.
yeah,
Wild though, because you don't think of like women leading Mississippi, but there is a type of woman that Sadie Holland is that we will put in charge in a second. And I don't know what
yeah,
it is specifically, but like, yes, Sadie Holland, you're in charge. I thought if you're watching this and you want to know what like powerful women in Mississippi are like, that's one. If you're looking for political power in Mississippi, that's who you could model it
yeah.
after because she really had that going. And then like the good old boy network behind the whole thing, how everybody knew everybody and they got in each other's business. It was just like very, very on point for Mississippi.
And, Sarah from Australia, the other podcast, was asking me, she's like, "Why did you think this was such a Mississippi story? Like, why?" I guess she just not only is she not from the United States, like, so she definitely is not from the South, but she's just like, "Explain why." I was like, I can't explain why
It's
a place like Mississippi, not just, I mean, Alabama too, other places, Louisiana, why we breed these characters. I really don't know.
it's the setting. It is that there's not much going on for him to have done, so he really could fall down a loophole of that.
Yeah.
It is I think also it's kind of a story of like Mississippi entering the 21st century in a way because this kind of like talking about each other, small town, like gonna figure it out, people who lose their minds and really go for it the whole time.
Mhm.
That happens, but then the internet collided with that, and we ended up with this story, like the small townness escaped the small
Mhm.
town and
Mhm.
got onto the small screen here, and here we are talking about it. I think that is what really captures like the Mississippi-ness of it. Like it's all the talking, just people talking about this, talking over here, meeting in the Hardys and talking over there, and people just swapping stories back and forth. And then there's one or two people who take it a little too far and get their
Right.
feelings hurt or get too into it. And that is this story. This one just happened to escape because of really ricin, I guess, like, is what really got it out there, but I think that's what's so Mississippi about it is the characters in it. So if you're not from Mississippi or not from the US and you wanna know what makes this a Mississippi story, the setting, his trailer, those are here. There you could find a trailer like that somewhere. There's nice houses in Mississippi too, but there are those. There's a
Thank you.
trailer in the
Yes.
woods, you know?
Yes.
There's a
But, I
trailer in
mean,
the woods.
and he had a pool and a hot tub. I mean, he was doing alright.
Right. He's got it, and there's, like, wealthy people as well, but, just the whole setting of it, the way the politicians were shown, that those are very Mississippi politicians, they know how to talk the talk, they've got the, like, swagger to back it up. The
Yep.
way the Good Old Boy Network shown very well in this, our love for Elvis and how we will make an exception for, like, the arts, like, we love the arts, and we love especially if something that leaves Mississippi and makes us proud, we, like, are all down for it. We're, like, all down
Yes.
for Elvis, so we're down for Elvis impersonators. The whole
Yes.
thing. I think there
Yeah.
like, every moment of this show, I was just like, "Mississippi is really Mississippiing in this
Yeah.
documentary."
Yes.
From
Yeah,
the just, like, from the ground up.
and I guess it seems at the end that, Kevin did kind of reunite with his family, and his kids, did sort of get back on board with him. They did have childhood trauma from their dad, and now they got adult trauma from their mom being on TV. It's like, yeah, I slept with him. When I hook her, woo, we went to Jamaica. I mean, she was just
I think
that was a
y'all need to be
character.
proud of y'all's mama. She is a character, and she was having a good time, and that's all she was doing. She's just been living her best life. That's all.
As long as she was a good mom, let her party it up. She was having a
Let
great
her have her
um,
time.
let Laura have fun. Now, Landon, another thing I said to Sarah on Crime Scene was I was like, I think, my friend Landon described it as the way these stories and things breed out of Mississippi, a lot of it comes from being hot. And I think you said that, like,
Yeah,
a lot of our history and stuff comes
just
from
too
being
hot to do
hot.
anything.
So you sit around and fan
Mhm.
yourself when, before
And then
people
you
had air
get
conditioning
to
or the air
thinking too
conditioner.
much.
Yeah, yeah, and then you get to talking about what happened to church,
Mhm,
who
and then
wore
it gets a
what.
little bit hotter and it makes your
Mhm.
neck red, and then you're, like, a little bit more uncomfortable, and then you get agitated, and then you start looking into it more, and you get more agitated, and then it just
Yeah.
rolls into now you've went and bought a brand new gateway and are investigating organ conspiracies.
I know, and it's really sad too because he did have this, like, fun thing going with his brother, and then he kind of ruined it by being so nuts. His brother was like, "I couldn't get him away from the computer, and we had all these gigs," you know?
And he at that last gig that they did together, he went up there and it was their big gig. I forgot what it was, but it was like their big break. And at
It
the
was a
end of the show, he made it through the whole show, didn't say a word, and then he was like went on a rant about organ conspiracies at the end of the show, and that did it. That did it for
that
him.
his
That was it.
his his brother's like, "I can't do this with you anymore. This is
Mhm.
embarrassing." But then they
Mhm.
did have, like, a reunion show at the end in that same place. And that's when I was seeing the costumes. I was like, okay, so they make Kevin as the younger Elvis in like the red blazer with the when he was first doing his legs, and then we have Jack doing white Vegas jumpsuit Kung Fu Elvis, but
And
thinner.
honestly, I
Mhm,
was just in the Delta for a Thanksgiving party, a day after
mhm.
Thanksgiving party type situation weekend, and we even ended up on a party bus that went into Arkansas,
Oh,
and I know, so fun. I'm disappointed that those Elvises were not there, like, they should have been there. I had not seen the documentary at that point, but I feel like spending a weekend in the Delta, I should have been able to see the 2 Elvises, and I'm anxious to see where their next shows are, and will they make their way to Laurel? Like, I'm
Double
going. If
Trouble,
Double
Double
Trouble
Trouble's
shows up,
coming.
I will be there, like,
Double
I'm gonna be there.
Trouble.
There's
Did you
so
see
many,
any
like, cover
Elvises?
bands.
Did you
No, I
see any
saw
Elvises?
a 90s cover band, but, no Elvises, lots of cowboy hats. They're wearing cowboy hats in Arkansas. I didn't know that. I didn't know where the cowboy hats were, like, you'd think, "I might wear a cowboy hat," but it's not appropriate for the setting, but the setting that it is appropriate for is in Arkansas, sh
Oh,
if you're
they're
wondering.
bringing it back.
Yeah.
I would just think. I mean, stereotypically, I would
I
just think Texas.
It felt like they never left the cowboy
Hmm.
hats, but
Okay.
they're there.
You know
They're
where
there, yes.
where else you could get away with a cowboy hat? Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah,
Uh,
that lines up. That
That's where
feels very cowboy hat-ish.
yeah, that's where my husband's people are.
Mhm.
Oklahoma and Texas. Let me ask you
Yeah.
this is just off topic as we do. Would you consider Texas and Oklahoma to be the South?
Okay, I am more on the side of, like, yes, it is the South, like, I feel like it's very Southern, but a lot of people and people from there also are like, "No," like, Texas will be like, "No, it's Texas, it's its own thing."
Yeah.
Oklahoma, when I asked this to the internet, Oklahomans seem to feel, if not Southern, at least Appalachian, sort of partly
Mm,
Appalachian in
mhm.
nature. So I say the South. I say if you, like, are at all associated with the South, then come on with it, be in the South with us, is what I
Well,
say.
it's fine. We'll welcome you. But I just say, if anybody asks me, I'll say, well, just kind of growing up in Mississippi, I would have never considered Oklahoma or Texas to be Southern. I'm more just
No,
like Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, South Carolina, yeah,
and I
and
didn't even
some
know
parts of
where
Florida.
Oklahoma was. Yeah, I didn't even know where
Mm.
Oklahoma was till I asked the people where the South was, and Oklahoma showed up, and I was like, "Well, what I need to look up where Oklahoma is."
Also, Missouri, is included, and
I
I don't
know.
like that either.
Missouri's right there on the edge. They're not Southern. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever got called out for my Southern accent, was in Missouri. I asked, and it shocked me. Shocked me. My roommate from college was from there, and I said something about we're gonna go to McDonald's, and he and his mother were like, "Where?" And I was like, McDonald's," and they were like,
McDonald's.
"It's McDonald's," and I was like, "Wow." It was the first time I've ever, like, realized I had a Southern accent because when you live here in Mississippi, the accents are really thick in the woods, so I don't feel like I don't hear mine compared to other
Yeah,
people's,
right.
so that was a shock to me. I was like, "Wow, I do say Southern things, my goodness gracious." I've always said McDonald's, and there's not an A in McDonald's, it turns out.
No, it's McDonald's, but if you said McDonald's, I wouldn't be like, "Listen to that hillbilly." I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that. I would just be like, "Yeah, McDonald's or
It
McDonald's, either
surprised
one."
me, Missouri surprised me, so I'm holding that against them.
But, I mean, the Mason-Dixon line is here in Virginia where I am, I think, right?
Yeah, you're right
And so
there.
what but I'm in Northern Virginia, so believe me when I tell you, I am not in the South. People here think I have an accent. They do. They do, and I
I
really
feel like
don't.
Virginia is just so borderline Southern that it could be. I mean, it could be.
Let me
But
tell
it's
you what,
almost
you
kinda
get
like you said, Northern Virginia is not because Southern
it's totally
Virginia,
different.
yes. Eastern Texas, yes. Southern Oklahoma,
Mm,
yes. Like, I feel like there's
mhm.
some states that it could be split, you know?
Mhm. We
So,
just have to make like a circle and be like, "You're
mhm.
included if you're here," but I mean, we'll take you. We'll take you,
Yeah, we
but
will. We will. I was really proud to not be in this. There was just some show I was watching. Oh, the Jerry Springer documentary. I talked to Kate Casey about it, and
okay, good.
there was a triangle of where the people were from. Like 78% of the people were from this one triangle, and I was just so proud Mississippi was not in the triangle. It was like from Ohio to like DC to down to Florida. It was like a triangle like that, somewhere in those areas, and I was like,
It
wow.
does. It shifted that way. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. I'm
Some
really
of
proud.
there's a person that's on my 90-day show that was, on Jerry Springer twice, and she's from Hazelhurst, Georgia,
Wow.
and so
Wow.
and that tracks. If you see her on the show, you're like, "Yeah,
Mm.
she was
It
on Jerry
tracks.
Springer." Yeah, it
It
tracks.
tracks.
So I'm sure that part of Georgia was probably included in that triangle.
Mhm. I'm sure it was.
Well, they pull from that pool of crazy. They're like, "You're crazy. How many crazy people do you know? Send them over."
Who else do you know? What about your mom and them?
Yes. Now, Landon, tell everybody what you're doing because you are on a tour doing comedy. Let's hear about that.
I am. I've been doing stand-up comedy, and I love it. I'm having the best time doing it. I love live shows. I talk on, I have social media situations like Instagrams and stuff, but I don't see the people. I see usernames and I see like numbers and stuff. And after
Yeah.
a while, that just kind of like fades into the background. So doing live shows is just so much fun because I actually get to see the people and have a very good time. I've been playing show in my grandmother's curtain since I could talk. And that's what I do. I just come play show. I just come play show. And if you bought a ticket, then you got to watch me for an hour. So that's how I view it. I like got a captive audience, then I get to go play show and have a real good time. I get to do a lot more storytelling than just the minute and a half Instagrams. So it's a very good time. We do get to meet everybody and hug everybody's neck, which
Mhm.
people that's a southern phrase too. Did you know that people don't hug people's necks other places? I
Well,
mean,
say
they
I'm gonna come
might, but
hug
they
your
don't
neck,
call
and
it that.
it
Mhm.
doesn't really mean you're going to hug
It
somebody's neck. It
confuses
just means I'm
people,
gonna
right?
hug you.
Mhm. And the neck
Oh.
part gets them. But, yeah, so doing stand-up all it does, the neck part of that gets them. It really does. So, doing stand-up, and then the 23rd of this month, actually, I'm gonna be doing Netflix as a joke at Zanies in Nashville. I know, so
Wow.
exciting. So, if you're around, y'all come to see
Okay,
me there at
January
Nashville that night.
23rd. January No, this is coming out on January 6th. I was about to say January 23rd is when this is coming out, but this episode is coming out January 16th. It's 1 week away, so if you're in Nashville,
Nice.
get your ticket.
Come
That's
on out. It'll
great.
be they said, "Come see comedy's next biggest stars before their big break." So I'm thrilled to be a part of that. Like, thrilled to be a part of it. And I think I've
Yeah.
got a show in Decatur, Alabama before that, and then we've got Houston and Addison, and then back to Nashville in March, Huntsville, Alabama. There's a few shows. If you go to my Instagram and go to my link tree, all my shows are listed there, and I really love for people to come out to see them. And then also another fun project is that I finally did the podcast. I finally made it. Kate Casey has yelled at me for almost a year now about this. We finally did it. Landon Talks with Kate, wherever you find podcasts, is conversational and educational, and I enjoy it. You get your pop culture and your stuff from Mary Payne, and then you can come visit with us afterwards at our
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, you guys, Kate has been, like, super helpful. Everybody knows Casey here. Kate's been super helpful with Landon getting his podcast off the ground. Now,
She
Landon,
really has.
what about the book?
And the
But
book, I forgot about the book. My goodness gracious. So the book, I wrote a book, Bless Your Heart, A Field Guide to All Things Southern, and it is with Hachette, and it comes out April 1st. So April Fool's Day. I'm going to have to convince people that it's real, but that is
okay.
very exciting. I'm stoked on it. We'll have a little book tour after that. And then in the fall, there'll be another book coming out too, a Christmas situation.
What?
I know. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it yet or not, but I will can say that. Yep, got a little Christmas situation coming on. So books coming out, shows coming out, all things going. And you can find me at Landon Talks on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and all those places, and keep up with whatever this is that you call what we do now.
Wow, that's crazy. So for the book, is it in pre-sales now? Because I know pre-sales are such a
It
big
is. You
deal.
can
Yeah.
pre-order it now. Yes, you can pre-order it now. Wherever books are sold, you can pre-order it. Actually, I have to sign, like, I think I've got 4,000 left of the little book pages
Yeah.
that they send you,
Sign.
and then they
Yeah.
stick it in there. Yes. So my arm is just like shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I waited till the last week to do that. They're doing
Oh,
2 days. So,
yeah, that's right.
that's
A
what
as those of
I ha
us with
that was
ADHD
always
do,
gonna happen. That
couldn't
was
wait till 2 days
always gonna
before.
happen. I know.
Um, but are you gonna send me a book is what's really it's about.
Obviously, you're on my PR list for sure.
Listen, I love a good PR package. I'll blow it up
Mhm.
with my tiny Instagram. Um, everybody, please follow Landon at Landon Talks. And like he says, if you want to go see him on his comedy tour, pre-order the book, listen to the podcast, all that's in his link tree. You guys know how to click that in somebody's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that stuff. And just even if you just go to his Instagram and watch him every day, he's got something to say. Landon
Yeah.
Talks.
We have a good time. It's a good community. The comments are the best part of the internet. I think it's so good. So, yeah, before we go though, I wanna
Yeah.
say, if you're watching this show, the docuseries, this
Yeah,
is Mississippi. Like, that really is Mississippi. There's a lot of
it is.
Mississippi there, but there are levels of Mississippi, and if you came here, that wouldn't be all that you experienced. That's just one part of this wonderful place. So don't let it scare you away from Mississippi. Do know that that is happening. That is going on. All that stuff is going on, but it's not going to be right in your face as much as it looks like from the documentary. So yes.
Unless you want it, and then you can easily find it. If you
If
want
that's what you're
crazy, you
looking
can
for,
find
we've
it.
got plenty of that.
Yes. Yes, we got plenty. Oh, that's so funny, Landon. Landon, you made so many great points on this episode, so I appreciate you. I really, you really gave me a lot to think about. A lot to
Well,
think
I'm
about.
down to talk to you at any time. I'm so glad that we are friends, and I'm so glad you asked me to come do this.
Okay, don't hang up. Thanks, Landon.